Erik, you're representing Swedish festivals, and I just wondered how many of them there are and what sort of variety of festivals that includes.
Well, we are open for all kind of art festivals, not just music, even though we started as Swedish music festivals 40 years ago. We have about 35 members, but we also connect to other art festivals that are connected to like Swedish jazz and art music and so on.
And do they cover the whole length and breadth of Sweden? Because it's a very long country, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the northern one, that's a unique one. It's called Haparanda Tornio Jazz and Blues, and it's on the border cities between Sweden and Finland. And it's a member of both Sweden Festival and Finland Festival, so it's a unique festival in that case.
And of those 35 festivals, how many, you talk about them being music festivals, you primarily mean classical music or art music festivals, I suppose?
Maybe 40% is like that, and then there's jazz festivals, there's some folk music festivals.
You don't have the literary festivals in this group? Like in
Umeå? We had one, but not anymore. We have a storytelling festival and a theatre festival. And yeah.
Where do you see the growth in Sweden for festivals? I mean, are the new ones being created all the time? Do you feel there's a sort of energy in the festival sector there?
Both. And we just talked about the pandemic and so on. And I think that a growing stage was from the pandemic, and now we don't really know who's coming up and who are going to overlive and so on. I don't see so many new ones lately.
Can I add a
Yes,
thing there? Because my job is to do good public funding for example, festivals, because I'm closest to the politicians than on the strategic level in Västra Götaland, it's a regional. So we have just changed one of our support polls. Instead of calling it like a development project support you can have, a grant you can have, we just call it a project. Because we saw that the festivals, they are just coming annually. They're actually doing kind of the same thing, and we don't want them to go away. We want them to thrive, and they are always developing themselves anyway. So we took away the development, word, just so that you can know that we can still exist, we can do this again. And I think that's one of the things you can do in policy making level to stimulate.
And Katti, you're representing a region,
yes,
and perhaps you'd like to tell me a little bit about which region, how central it is to what's happening nationally as well.
It's interesting, this country. I don't know if you've never been, but it's very long. And the capital is in Stockholm, is on the east coast. I am on the west side of Sweden, and it's 49 municipalities in that region, so it's the largest one, not to the area surface, but to numbers of municipalities there. And there's Gothenburg, the biggest one, the big city, but then you have Malmö, and down close to Denmark, and then Stockholm. And these three are kind of competing always, especially around cultural issues. So where I live, on Tjörn, a little island, which brands itself as the island of art as well. So Göteborg says, we don't care about Stockholm, we're going to go our own way. They're just, we don't care about them, so we often take the lead swept. That's kind of a thing that people say in West Sweden. The world is in our region and we are in the world. So we always have a very international ambition, which is fantastic. And we give most public funding per capita from my politicians. So it's a very ambitious region to be in. And we have a large variety of festivals, which can also sometimes include many literary actually, but also food, culture around wool and handicraft, design. So it's not only music, but a vast variety. And so it was very natural for me to say yes to go into this network. But we're the only region, as far as I know, that are now in the EFA network.
And I think talking about islands, I think the most extraordinary thing is that islands are great for festivals because people can't get off. So you can keep them there for a while. And there's nothing else to do, so they will go to the festival. But there is a huge difference between the sort of festivals that happen in rural settings and even in small town settings compared to what happens in the big capitals. And I don't know about you, Erik, but do you feel that the festivals in the big capitals tend to get lost in the general programs compared to the very much more focused local festivals in small towns?
No, I can't see that really, but if you're talking about progress, it maybe happens more in rural areas and more challenging programs, etc. and so on. And when we speak about the involvement in the festivals, it's much more in the rural areas, like
Fängersfors?
No, the modern music, I forgot the name just now, out on the field, contemporary music festival.
I don't know which one you're referring to. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I so agree with you that the most exciting creative things are happening in the outskirts, the so-called outskirts. Like you said, on an island you can't get off, or in a very rural setting where nothing happens. So we see like a cultural, arts-driven development of places and spaces very much in the outskirts, outside of Gothenburg in my region. Old industrial heritages that are now dead, like paper mills and so on, there the artists can come in, they can thrive, they can have a very low cost of living and rents, maybe not zero, because we think this is important growth that's going on there.
The trouble is, of course, that always makes the places very attractive, which means people with money move in.
Exactly.
The artists then have to move out
I
because
know.
they can't afford it anymore.
It happens.
I mean, the last time I was in a Swedish festival was at the Karlskrona Piano Festival, which happens in October. And again, an initiative of one pianist and one administrator, and yet it's now growing into a beautiful festival down in Karlskrona on the south coast. I wonder if you have particular specialist festivals that you're trying to encourage at the same time in your region.
They're actually happening a lot by themselves, out of our control, or that I don't feel that we need to stimulate it really, because for example, my politicians took the initiative to start an export office for the pop rock bands of the West Sweden. So we actually started like an organization that's going to find the talents, make them grow, make them professional, and then out in the world we go. It's not a festival, but it's a way of stimulating. That we do, but when it comes to festivals, we try to make our funding suitable also for festivals and also for small actors. Like we have a lot of poetry and storytelling and literature going on in Dalsland, which is one of those outskirts, but people are very, very literary interested there. So it's hard to say, something. And also we have the commercial ones like Way Out West, which was started by an industrial guy who thought we should have a big pop rock festival here in Gothenburg. It's nothing that we had anything to do with, but big international bands are coming there every summer. So it's a mix.
As a poet, I'm always encouraged when I hear that there are good literary festivals jumping up, because that's always encouraging to us as writers. There's places where you won't just be shoved in the bottom row, the bottom shelf of a bookshop.
No, and also there you can see where the commercial, and you have this book fair, which is the largest in the Nordic country, if not maybe, it's not the biggest, you have Frankfurt, but still. The book fair in Gothenburg is like a locomotive, it's like a train, generating all this interest in literature, and then therefore other things can thrive as well.
Throughout Europe, of course, the modern literary genre that most people associate with Sweden is Nordic noir, isn't it? And has done extraordinarily well. in terms of exposed sporting events. I mean, one always thinks of the Stadt as being Henning Winkel's stamping ground.
Absolutely.
And I wonder if that's become a bit of a burden to that part of Sweden, that everybody assumes that part of Sweden is rather a dark place.
I'm going to try to be a neutral diplomatic person here now, but I think that there's so much more to Swedish literature than these crime books that are like coming very, very on very high speed. We have a vast palette of talent. So it's not all about murder and psychopaths. It's all kinds of things going on. But of course it just came another one now from Hoflin, a small island also on the west coast where everybody's dying all the time. It's like the midsummer murders. So it seems to be like an ever increasing need for death and murder. But I read other books.
I for many years, had a place to live in Shetland, and I got very angry when Shetland suddenly became only known in England for its crime series. Erik, let's go back to some of the music festivals that you represent. And, are you finding that the ones with the greater energy are those with the biggest orchestras, or are they the ones with the small chamber festivals and or composer-led festivals?
I think it's the ones run by NGOs that makes their thing run. But in the meantime, sitting here in Berlin, and in the opening speech, Anna and Stephanie were saying, just take a few seconds and think, what is this conference going to give you? Connection, I thought, because we need to connect more with Europe, and it's a little bit strange that we connected again with EFA and Europe from our festival society during the pandemic, because that made the opportunity for us to work with it. Now we see in the future can be overlived, but I see when I get meetings with our colleagues and so on, we're not playing in the championships. We're in the third division. And it's the same with the support for the festivals. I mean, if I compare to our neighbors, Finland and Norway, even though we are more Swedes and then are together, they have 10 times more support for festivals. And this is very difficult to connect when you don't have the base resources. I would like more from Sweden to come to the conferences and the annual meeting and so on, but they just can't afford it. So it's a problem we have.
35 years ago I ran a festival in Scotland called the Northlands Festival, which we drew a line around the world from the Scottish border, and anything north of that could come to the festival. So there's plenty of Swedes and Norwegians and Finns at that, as well as Faroese and Greenlanders and Canadians.
But to be able to understand also what you're saying is that we have this three-level system, at least three, where there's the municipality level, they have some funding, very little many times, and then we have the regional level, very different how much. I have enormous amounts of money actually, 1.6 billion Swedish crowns, which is magic. And then that can be very different in other regions. Maybe they have like a tenth of what I have. And then you have the state level, which is now a very dull government that we have, or is a big backlash for the arts. So this whole system is difficult also to
It is, but it's
maintain.
also changing, because in a way now what you've got is something more closer to the German system, where it's the lender who can give the money
Exactly.
to the music. But
If you see to the festival that has most public fundings in Sweden, it's been a jazz festival, and it's about 150,000 euros, and that's national and municipality money, and compared to other festivals.
What I wanted to ask was, as you got more involved in EFA, have your festivals started collaborating much more across borders?
We're pushing on it, and I think that the EFA project for emerging artists is a very good way to work. But we're struggling there also to get them to get into it and to choose the partner festivals and also the artists and so on. Now we're going to the second term, and I hope that we will engage more of our festivals.
I don't know, but you have this summit, yearly summit. Maybe it could land in my region at one point. We probably have planned it for many years ahead, but we're up for it. Maybe that could be inspiring. And also I can see that there's a big lack of competency now. We need a lot of people that can make films, for example, or technicians or other parts of making a festival, making arts. And that would be so interesting to collaborate with this network to see how people are working with it in other countries. So I see many benefits. And maybe some travel grant should be needed as well. You say that people can't even afford to come. So I can also inspire my other regional colleagues to see, can we do something here together on a national level?
And finally,
yes, there are some collaborations. Finland, Sweden, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and so.
But always very good at that.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the rest of Europe to entertain. Finally, I just wanted to ask about the idea from your region. What would you suggest people come to? What were the things that you think people in the rest of Europe really would come and see?
I cannot name one thing, they would kill me. But if I can be like locally patriotic then, because there's a bias here. I live on Tjörn, which is a small island, and this guy, he doesn't have a penny from us. He makes his own festival just by having a really great idea. He makes this land art festival during the months where you can be outside in Sweden. It's like from May to September in an old grave field, Viking, very old place. He has this enormous land art sculpture that he changes also every year. So Pilanet, go to the Pilanet Park in summertime, and that would be an amazing experience. I can guarantee it.